Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the Prime Minister you voted for, the man who promised to protect the vulnerable and build a fairer Britain, has just decided that your heating money is the perfect place to start making cuts, and now millions of elderly people across the country are facing a winter where they'll have to choose between keeping warm and keeping fed, while energy companies rake in record profits and the government finds billions for everything except the people who actually built this country. That's not a dystopian novel or some far-right scare story. That's literally what Keir Starmer's Labour government has done, stripping winter fuel payments from 10 million pensioners and then acting surprised when those same pensioners started organising the kind of resistance movement that would make the suffragettes proud. We're talking protests, campaigns, legal challenges, and a political backlash so ferocious it's making Starmer's approval ratings look like they've fallen off a cliff. And honestly, watching this whole catastrophe unfold has been like watching someone set fire to their own house and then complain about the smoke. If you're not already subscribed to British Mirror, you need to hit that subscribe button immediately and smash that notification bell, because we're about to break down a political disaster so spectacular it'll be taught in universities as the definitive case study of how to alienate your core voters in record time. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment of this train wreck. So, let's get into exactly what Starmer's government did, because the details make it even worse than the headlines suggest. The winter fuel payment has existed since 1997, introduced by Tony Blair's Labour government to help elderly people afford heating during the coldest months, when hypothermia becomes a genuine threat and energy bills spike dramatically. For over 25 years, this payment of between £200 and £300 was universal for everyone over state pension age, a recognition that elderly people on fixed incomes are particularly vulnerable to energy price fluctuations, and that keeping them warm isn't optional, it's a matter of life and death. It was one of those policies that everyone across the political spectrum understood you simply didn't touch, because pensioners vote religiously, they have long memories, and taking away their heating money is the kind of political suicide that makes the charge of the Light Brigade look like sound tactical planning. But Keir Starmer, in what must surely be one of the most spectacular misjudgments in modern political history, decided that means-testing winter fuel payments was a brilliant idea that would demonstrate fiscal responsibility and prove Labour could make tough choices. The new policy restricts the payment to only the very poorest pensioners on pension credit, meaning roughly 10 million elderly people who were receiving it suddenly find themselves without that crucial support. Now, if you're a pensioner with a decent private pension or significant savings, losing 200 quid is annoying but survivable. But if you're one of the millions living on a modest state pension, perhaps with a tiny bit of savings that disqualifies you from pension credit but doesn't actually make you comfortable, that £200 to £300 is the difference between heating your home adequately and sitting in the cold wearing multiple jumpers and going to bed at 7 because it's warmer under the duvet. The government's justification for this cut was the now infamous £22 billion black hole supposedly discovered in the public finances left by the Conservatives. Rachel Reeves stood at the dispatch box looking suitably grave and explained that difficult decisions had to be made, that the money simply wasn't there, that tough choices were necessary. And you know what? Let's accept for argument's sake that there genuinely was a budget shortfall that needed addressing. The question then becomes, of all the possible places to find savings, of all the potential cuts you could make, why on earth would your first instinct be to take heating money from pensioners? It's like being told you need to cut household expenses and immediately deciding to cancel your grand's arthritis medication while keeping your Netflix premium subscription. The priorities are absolutely mental. Here's what makes it even more galling. The amount saved by this cut is approximately £1.4 billion annually. That's real money, certainly, but in the context of total government spending of over £1 trillion, it's absolutely minuscule. The government spends more than that on management consultants who produce reports nobody reads. They spend more than that on failed IT projects. They spend more than that on various other things that don't involve preventing elderly people from freezing to death. So we're not talking about some massive budgetary breakthrough here. We're talking about relatively modest savings achieved by inflicting genuine hardship on millions of vulnerable people. It's the worst kind of false economy, saving pennies while creating pounds worth of political damage and human suffering. And speaking of human suffering, let's talk about the actual real-world consequences of this policy, because this isn't abstract political point scoring, this is about people's lives. Medical research is absolutely clear that cold homes kill elderly people. The phenomenon of excess winter deaths, mortality above seasonal averages concentrated in the coldest months, is heavily weighted towards the elderly and directly correlated with inadequate heating. When pensioners can't afford to heat their homes properly, they're at increased risk of hypothermia, respiratory infections, cardiovascular events, and a whole host of other cold-related health problems. Age UK estimates that thousands of additional pensioners could die this winter as a direct result of being unable to afford adequate heating. Thousands. We're not talking about theoretical harm here. We're talking about actual dead pensioners whose deaths could have been prevented if the government hadn't decided their heating money was an acceptable sacrifice. The response from health professionals and charities has been absolutely damning. The British Medical Association expressed serious concerns about the public health implications. Age UK published detailed analysis showing hundreds of thousands of pensioners who desperately need the winter fuel payment will lose it because they fall just above the pension credit threshold while still living in genuine poverty. Independent health researchers have been queuing up to explain that this policy will directly contribute to excess winter deaths among the elderly. And the government's response? Essentially to shrug and say that pensioners who really need help can claim pension credit, ignoring the fact that pension credit has notoriously low take-up rates because many eligible pensioners don't know they qualify, find the application process bewildering, or feel stigmatized by claiming benefits. But here's where this story gets properly delicious. Pensioners are not taking this lying down. The protests that have erupted across the country have been absolutely magnificent. We're talking thousands of elderly people taking to the streets with placards, reading things like "Starmer freezes pensioners" and "Labour has betrayed us," and my personal favourite, "We voted for you and this is how you repay us." There's something particularly powerful about seeing 80-year-old women who voted Labour their entire lives holding signs condemning the Labour government for cruelty. The optics are absolutely catastrophic for Starmer, and you can practically see his media team having collective breakdowns, trying to figure out how to spin pensioners protesting in the freezing cold against having their heating money taken away. The organizational sophistication of the pensioner resistance has also been impressive. This isn't just spontaneous anger, it's coordinated action. Pensioner advocacy groups have launched legal challenges, arguing the policy violates human rights and equality legislation. They've organized letter-writing campaigns, flooding MPs' offices with correspondence from angry constituents. They've coordinated protests in marginal constituencies where Labour's majority is slim and every vote matters. They've been all over social media, and yes, pensioners are on social media now, sharing stories of hardship and mobilizing support. This is a proper grassroots movement, and it's causing the government absolute nightmares. The political fallout has been spectacular. Labour MPs in constituencies with large elderly populations have been facing absolutely furious constituents at surgeries and community events. Several MPs voted against the cut or abstained rather than support it, which for a new government with a massive majority is highly unusual and signals serious unease on the backbenches. Multiple local Labour parties have passed motions condemning the policy and demanding its reversal. Some long-time Labour members have reportedly torn up their membership cards in protest and sent them to party headquarters with accompanying letters explaining exactly what they think of a Labour government that attacks pensioners.
The trade union response has added another layer of pressure. Several major unions, who are crucial labour funders and whose members include many soon-to-be pensioners, have called for the policy to be reversed. Unite, one of Labour's biggest financial backers, has been particularly vocal in criticism. When your own funding base is telling you the policy is morally wrong and politically suicidal, that's a significant problem that can't be ignored. The implied threat is clear. Continue down this path and the money pipeline gets turned off, which for a political party is existential. Opinion polling since the announcement has shown absolutely devastating movement against Labour among elderly voters. We're talking double-digit swings in disapproval ratings among the over 65s. Focus groups with pensioners reveal visceral anger and feelings of betrayal. These aren't swing voters who might come back next